Hey everyone, it's Ray, and today I'll be reading you a no-sleep story. I'm sitting outside of a Starbucks, using their free Wi-Fi with a Reddit account I just made. That's the only way I'm going to be able to get anything out there. A lot of crazy stuff has happened recently, and I'm not just talking about the stupid virus. That's the least of my worries right now. I'm writing here to try and work out what's going on, because it's all just too mind-boggling. Maybe some of you can help me? I don't know though, this whole situation is just freaking me out. Ever since quarantine hit, I've been getting into writing more and more. With all of this free time, what else is there to do? My stimulus check gives me just enough money to make it through each month, if I only eat once a day. It's not like I'm moving around too much anyways, so the lack of food is not really a problem. No one is really out and about. My family lives in a different state. I don't have any roommates, and I'm not great at keeping contact with people, so I don't have anyone to talk to. I also haven't been having any luck on any of the dating apps I downloaded. So there haven't even been any quarantine violating dates or hookups going on. So, as I was saying, I've been writing a lot more than usual. Mostly poems and some short stories, but recently I got inspired to start writing a fantasy novel. For short stories, I don't need to have a full-fledged idea of who the characters are or what they look like, but for the novel ideas, I like taking my time, painstakingly creating perfect characters. It's a flaw of mine as a writer, since I can get so caught up in who the characters are that I forget about the plot. I wanted to do something to change that, but I didn't know what until I stumbled upon this website called thispersondoesnotexist.com. For those who don't know, thispersondoesnotexist.com is a website that uses some sort of AI to automatically generate faces of people who presumably do not actually exist. Every time you refresh the page, you get a new face. I learned about this website completely by accident. I was watching a YouTube channel run by a person who tracks down and exposes predators online. He found a face of a little girl on that website, so he didn't have to get a photo of a real child when catfishing these monsters. As soon as I watched that part of video, it clicked. I could get myself out of my character creation trap by just refreshing that website a few times until I found a picture that I could model my characters off of, giving me more than time to work on the plot and actually write the story that I wanted to write. The first thing I noticed about the website is that it was a bit surreal. Some of the images looked like they were clearly computer generated, but most of the pictures looked like they could be real people. The uncanny valley effect is real on this website, and I found that I got a bit creeped out if I stayed there for too long. But it was very helpful when looking for character models. After a few minutes, I found faces for the best friend, the love interest, the main villain, and some important side characters. The only face I had left to find was the face that was going to belong to the main character. None of the faces felt right, no matter how many times I hit refresh. After a few more page refreshes, I saw it. My smiling face. I felt my heart rate spike. It looked exactly like me. My slightly crooked nose, the one dimple that appeared when I smiled, the smallest chip on my right front tooth from a drunken party. Every detail was eerily accurate. I couldn't refresh the page. I don't mean that I was frozen in fear. I clicked on the refresh button, and the page did not refresh. I tried clicking the little X button on the top left of the browser window, but an error message popped up.
Error.
This person does not exist. I closed the window and stared at that thing. Me. It. I don't know. All I knew is that I definitely had to take a break from my computer. It was probably just a glitch. I forced my computer to restart and decided that I should get out of the house for the first time in weeks. And it would probably give my computer enough time to restart. I grabbed my keys, phone, and headphones, but decided against wearing a mask. It was past midnight, so there probably wouldn't be too many people walking around anyways. I pulled my hoodie over my head and exited my apartment, locking the door behind me. The air was still. Even though the downtown area is usually pretty noisy, I felt like I could hear a pin drop from the next block. It was as if the whole city was holding its breath. I put on my headphones and began playing some music to make the situation less creepy and began walking. I tried thinking positive thoughts. I didn't have to constantly sidestep to avoid other oncoming pedestrians. I could quietly sing songs out loud without getting weird looks. I could breathe easier since I wasn't wearing a mask. These small positives made me feel safe enough to justify walking to the park and then back to my apartment again. The street lamps illuminated the upcoming main road. A homeless man and his dog lay sleeping by a building. The same place they were stationed since the last time I went to get groceries. This dog was usually very excitable, even when asleep. However, the large Rottweiler didn't wake up and bark when I approached him. I felt a sense of relief that the man would be able to get some sleep without his dog waking him up. I felt around my sweater pockets for some change, but couldn't find any. I haven't handled hard cash in a while since most of my shopping is now done by card or online. Feeling a bit guilty, I continued walking towards the park. I began to sing and dance a bit to the music as I walked, trying to forget about seeing my face on that website. It had to be a mistake, maybe a glitch, or maybe I misremembered the image. Something. Maybe I should spend less time on the computer, but what else am I supposed to do during quarantine? Someone was walking out of an apartment building I was walking towards. A guy, about my age, readjusting his hair as he took out his phone and yawned. He probably just finished a hookup and was checking the bus schedule. Lucky guy. He looked up from his phone as I passed, and I gave him a slight nod. He didn't react. Weird, but he seems exhausted. It's way past midnight after all. He probably just spaced out. I kept walking. When I got to the park, I took a seat on the bench and let my headphones rest around my neck. The darkness was pushed back by the light of an overhead street lamp. I could see everything clearly. The great field of grass that stretched out before me is usually a great picnic spot for families, friends, and couples alike. The sounds of laughter and barking dogs were now replaced by empty silence. The field entirely populated by empty picnic tables and trees. It seemed too cold for the bugs to be out, which was a pleasant surprise for a dark summer night like this one. A young woman approached where I was sitting and took a seat on the other side of the bench. Her curly hair was up in a bun, and it looked like she had bags under her eyes. A fellow insomniac, perhaps. She seemed withdrawn, since she barely regarded my existence. She must want to talk to me, though. Otherwise, she probably wouldn't have sat next to the same bench as me. I decided to bite the bullet and talk to the first human I've spoken to in a considerably long time. So, you can't sleep either, huh? No reaction. Did she hear me? I tried again. Hey, I was wondering if you wanted to chat for a bit? It's okay if you don't want to. Still no reaction. Guess that's a no. Felt a bit let down, but I didn't want to creep her out more than I already have. I got up to walk back to my apartment, feeling exceptionally embarrassed. As I started walking, the thought of my face on that website entered my mind. I stopped in my tracks. My heart skipped a beat. Could I really? No, that would be stupid. It's just a website, and I'm going to prove it. I walked over to the young woman sitting on the bench. Against my better judgment, I stood directly in front of her and spoke, half expecting to be slapped in the face. This is going to sound crazy, but it's a bit of a weird night. If you say blue right now, I promise that I will leave and not bother you anymore. The woman opened her mouth and sneezed. She didn't say blue. She didn't react to what I said at all. It was as if I wasn't even there. I read my hand in front of her face, and she stared past me. Still no reaction. A cold realization washed over me. My heart began pounding against my ribcage. I could feel the blood pumping through each individual vein and capillary. I began to hyperventilate. This was really happening. Somehow, I didn't exist anymore. I stood there for a while, and it all started making sense. The homeless man's dog not waking up when I walked past. The guy who didn't seem to see me. This woman who wasn't reacting to anything that I was doing, even though I was acting a bit like a maniac. No one reacted to anything I did because I didn't exist. No, that's crazy talk. Very, very crazy talk. I have to be dreaming. I pinched my forearm. It hurt, but it didn't wake me up. This was very, very bad. I ran back to my apartment to check the computer. Even though I haven't exercised in months, I was running on a reserve energy I had no idea even existed. I was outside of my apartment in a matter of minutes. I impatiently punched in my apartment code and darted inside of the building. I didn't want to wait for the elevator, so I took the stairs, 2 at a time. As I approached my floor, I took out my keys. My house key was turning the lock on my apartment door in seconds, and I flung the door open, not caring who I woke up. Sweat made my sweater cling to my body, but that didn't matter. I dashed to my computer. Except, it wasn't my computer. The laptop was different. The back one was different. I didn't know what to think. I don't know how to feel. I didn't know how to feel. In the futile attempt to rectify the situation, I entered my password. Incorrect password. Please enter valid password to sign in. Shoot, I have to remember to lock my door, said a voice coming from behind me. I was focused on the computer that I didn't even hear the door open. I quickly closed the laptop and stood up. The woman from the park tossed her sweater on the couch as she made her way into the bedroom. I began to panic, but she still doesn't seem to notice me. I didn't exist, and so this wasn't my apartment anymore. I watched her open the laptop that wasn't mine. I decided that it was time for me to leave. I walked outside of the apartment building in a daze. I wandered around the area until I stumbled across a Starbucks and sat down to the locked door. Through the glass, I could see all the chairs stacked up on the tables, covered in a thin layer of dust. Everything seemed so bleak. I pulled out my phone to see the default background instead of the familiar image of my childhood cat. I swiped up and the phone was unlocked. None of the apps I downloaded were there anymore, and all of my contacts and photos were gone. My phone had changed, even though it was with me this entire time. I felt defeated. I needed to prove that I still existed. I'm usually a lurker on here, but now I'm getting desperate. That's why I connected to the free Wi-Fi and re-downloaded Reddit and made this account. I don't know how much longer this will go on, but I hope it's not much longer. I need reassurance. I need recognition. I need help. Please help me.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any other suggestions for stories for me to read in
Hi everyone, thank you so much for listening to this. If you have any other suggestions for stories that I should read in the future, feel free to comment them down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Stay safe and bye-bye everyone. I tried clicking the little X button on the top of the X button on the top left of the browser. I tried clicking the little X button on top of the I tried clicking the little X button on top of